This is Mrs. Coffee, and today we're going to do an experiment called testing the motion of vehicles carrying a load. So you can see our vehicle, same as the last experiment we did, but this time we've added a load. The load are the blocks, and in this case I'm using 2 blocks. Some of the other things that we will need for this experiment is the paper clip that you can see there with the string, and it goes all the way to the end of my table, and it'll have a bunch of washers to pull it down by the force of gravity. You will need a bookend so the vehicle doesn't fall off the table, a timer, and then you're going to need, if you were to do this at home, you don't have these materials, but if you were going to do this experiment at school, you would need 3 different color of pens or colored pencils, blue, red, and green, so that you can fill out the line plot graph, which is something we learned about in math class. And we're going to be using that for science today. And then we're going to need our washers. We need large washers and small washers. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is to set up the falling weight system. So you have the hook with the washers at the end of the table, and then we need to make sure we leave some room here for our vehicle to travel, and nothing should be in its path. And I'm going to back up the vehicle a little bit so that when I let go, it'll pull across the table. So what I needed to do first was find out how many washers it would take for our vehicle to start moving. So I have already figured that out, and I have put that number of 24 washers, which is 16 of the small washers, which I replaced with 1 large washer, because that is the same as 16 small washers. And then I put 8 additional small washers on our hook. So we're going to first write that number on our sheet, our worksheet. So you guys have this in Canny. So you should put your name at the top, today's date, which is 9/22/20, and then the number of washers we're going to use for all these different trials is 24. So what we're going to be doing is timing how fast our vehicle will travel when it is heavy with a load like it is right now. And then we're going to lighten the load to only 1 block, and then we're going to take off both blocks and make it an even lighter weight vehicle. So we are going to see how the weight of the load affects the vehicle's motion. All right, so the first trial, we have 2 blocks. And what we're going to do, let me pull that back a little bit, is I'm going to time how long it takes for the vehicle to travel across the table and hit the bookend. And then we're going to record that on our worksheet. So I'm going to ready, set, go, and I'm going to use my timer to record how much time it takes for those weights to hit the floor. Okay, it took 3 seconds. So now on our form, oops, it fell off. It's okay. It says, now look back at your data. About how long did it take? Oh, sorry, I was going ahead of myself here. So when we had 2 blocks, we're going to use a green dot to mark our data. So above the 3, you can do this on Cami, you're going to put 1 dot, which means 1 trial resulted in 3 seconds for that vehicle to travel. Okay. And then we're going to do it again. Okay. So I'm going to put my camera back up. And then I'm going to move my vehicle back. with 2 blocks. So this is a heavy load that our vehicle is carrying. Alright, so I'm going to try it again. So first, what I need to do is reset my timer so that I can record the time that it takes for the vehicle to travel across the table. Okay. Okay, so again, it took another 3 seconds. So I'm going to record that on my sheet, and we're going to put another dot above 3 because that's the second time it has taken 3 seconds to get across the table. All right, so I'm going to reset it again. We're going to do this trial 5 times. So this is our 3rd try with the 2 blocks on our vehicle. So this is our heavy load. All right, so I'm going to reset the timer. Okay, again, it was 3 seconds to move across the table, so I'm going to put a 3rd green dot above the number 3. So it should look like this. Okay, and then I'm going to back it up, and then we're going to do it 2 more times. Okay, and then I'm going to reset my timer. Three seconds again. So I'm going to put a 4th green dot above the number 3. And then I'm going to repeat it 1 more time. Sorry, hang on, my hook got stuck on my tablecloth. Okay, so this is our last trial with 2 blocks on our vehicle. So I'm resetting the timer. Okay, so it took 3 seconds again. So every one of the trials that had 2 blocks took 3 seconds to move across the table. So down here, it's asking for the average or the most frequent of the green dots. So we're going to put for vehicle plus 2 blocks, which is the green dots, we're going to put the most frequent amount of time it took to move across the table was 3 seconds. And then I want you to think to yourself, what do you think is going to happen when we take off 1 block? Is the vehicle going to move faster or is it going to move slower? So I want you to make a prediction in your head. Okay, so now our vehicle looks like this. It has 1 block, so it has a lighter load. Okay, so I'm going to back it up again. I'm going to reset my timer. That took 2 seconds to get across the table. Now this time we're going to do a blue dot, and we're going to put a blue dot over the number 2. Like that. Okay. And we're going to try it again. We are going to try it for a total of 5 trials. Okay, that took 2 seconds again. Okay, I'll try it again. Two seconds again. Okay, so we're going to do 2 more trials with 1 block. Oops. That time it took 3 seconds. So I'm going to put a blue dot above the number 3. So your graph will look like that. Okay, and then we're going to do 1 more trial with 1 block. So that was 2 seconds. So we're going to put another blue dot over 2. So this is what your graph should look like so far. You have 4 blue dots over the number 2 and 1 blue dot above the green circles on number 3. And then at the bottom, the most frequent number of seconds it took for the vehicle with 1 block was 2 seconds. So we're going to write the number 2. So if you look at this pattern, it looks like we're finding out that the faster that the vehicle will travel faster across the table with a lighter load. The heavier load takes longer to get across the table. All right, so this time our vehicle looks a little different. It has no load, so it's light. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing with 5 trials. So I want you to think in your head, make a prediction. Do you think that it's going to take longer than 2 seconds or less than 2 seconds to get across the table now that it has no load? All right, here's our timer. It was about 1.5. So I'm just going to put that it was 1 because it was pretty close there. So that was 1 second to get across the table. It was about 1.5. We're going to put a red dot for trial 1. So it moved very fast because it did not have a load. And it had a lot of force pulling it across the table. Okay, that took 2 seconds. We're going to put the red dot above the number 2. Let's try it again. This is our 3rd trial. So I'm going to time it. It took 2 seconds. So I put another red dot in that column. Okay, so this is our 4th trial. It really is taking about 1.5 seconds. So if I had a more accurate timer, that went to the half second, millisecond, then it would be more accurate. It really, again, was about 1.5. So I'm just going to put 1 this time because really each time it's been 1.5. Okay, we're going to do one more trial. Okay, so that was 2. Okay, so this is what your graph should look like. And then at the bottom it says vehicle only with without any blocks. The most frequent number of seconds that it took was 2. So we're going to put 2 down here. But really it was more like 1.5. I just didn't have an accurate enough timer for that. Okay, so that is how your graph should look. Tomorrow we're going to work on analyzing this information and looking at our graph and telling us what we can conclude from this information. Hope you enjoyed the experiment.